Hey, cater your next youth sports meal from Subway at Grants Ferry. Baseball, softball, soccer, or you need to feed the teacher. Subway at Grants Ferry. Super good subs. Make them hot. Subway at Grants Ferry. Or grab lunch there today. Grab and go, baby. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. The official bourbon of the Out of Bounds Show is Wild Turkey 101. Perfect for grilling and steaks and ribs. Pair with Wild Turkey 101. Fabulous Kentucky straight bourbon. WildTurkey.com. Good morning. Welcome in. We welcome in Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Mike, I know the Saints won, so there were people that were happy in your area, but describe the reaction to LSU getting blown out by Alabama Saturday.
I think shock of such a poor performance in a big game. That was a lot of hype to this. I mean, they bring in some of the top recruits in the nation. You're playing under the lights in Tiger Stadium, and you came out flat as a pancake. Alabama came in here with a mission and a job to do, and they got it done. And it was that loss is on the Mount Rushmore of losses at LSU. It's one of the worst losses in LSU history because you didn't show up. And that's on Brian Kelly. No matter how you cut it, it's on him. This is his third year. He's always talked about the third year being the key and how he's had success. And that was an embarrassing loss to Alabama.
Mike Detillier on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Okay, so you mentioned this is year 3. The college football playoff is not going to happen. So you'll go to a bowl that most people won't be interested in. A lot of teams would be, but not LSU caliber deal. So, Mike, how much pressure will be in the building with Brian Kelly and the staff going into 2025?
You're going to have to describe what you mean by pressure. He's got 7 more years left on a contract that's paying him $10 million a year.
Wow.
Okay. LSU fans, I'll get rid of him. Okay. Cut me that $70 million check. Okay. It's a knee-jerk reaction and not understanding or not wanting to know what's set up here. Okay. You paid, I think it's $17 million to Coach O to walk away. Come on. This is on Scott Woodward here. Okay. He's the one who gave him a 10-year contract. He's got 7 more years, and it's right around $10 million a year. So, yeah, he's got pressure on him. But coaches today with that type of securement, both the definition of pressure, you're going to have to describe it.
Well, so I get. We talked about it yesterday. All the money that he's got on his contract, but do you think that he'll have to? I mean, his defensive coordinator is the highest paid assistant in college football, so he just got there from Missouri. I'm sure he's on a multi-year deal. He promoted from within at OC, which I don't think you do that at LSU. You go get the best of the best because you act like you're LSU. It just looks like, I know Brian can coach, but it looks like some of the decisions of his top lieutenants aren't necessarily working out, Mike D.
What I see is a little bit of a disconnect. And it happens to even the best coaches. And because teams change from year to year on how they react to what you're trying to do as a coach. This team never did react that way. You knew the defense couldn't get worse than it was a year ago. And I think Blake's overall done a pretty good job. You had glaring holes at defensive tackle, cornerback, safety. We talked about it in the offseason over and over. Those holes are still there. They didn't address them. And, they brought in guys, but, Brian was the one who sort of lashed out at, a couple of players they wanted to bring in, and they got better deals somewhere else. Mm. So what were you going to expect, at that point? There's a little bit of disconnect. And I think he's got to admit that maybe the message didn't get across as well this year. And because he's one of those type of coaches, and I agree with you. I think he's a really good coach. But maybe this year that didn't get across right to his players. And it happens to the best of them. Happens to the absolute best of them that it didn't totally get across. And a lot of times, too, leaders on your team, guys that you're not going to let this happen. You can lose, but not in this manner, Bo. That to me was an embarrassment. All across the board. You didn't seem to be prepared after you had 2 weeks to get ready for Alabama. You didn't seem prepared. So when I look at it that way, and I see it in the NFL and in college football, I think a lot of times it goes back to that. Maybe the message this year didn't get across to his team. I thought year one, after a difficult start, he got the message across to his football team. And they seem to be piecing it together. Last year, offensively, could you ask for anything better? But defensively, you were so bad. And then you thought this year, this team probably could win 10 games. But it's the way you lost to Alabama. You didn't even see it be in the same area code as them, football-wise. You got outplayed, outcoached, out-hustled in your own backyard.
Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. He joins us on the Out of Bounds show. Brian Kelly, $70 million on his contract. Brent Venables, $44 million on his. Mark Stoops, close to that amount. So, guys, Kelly's not struggling like Venables and Stoops, but guys where athletic directors have just loaded the boat on these guys, and a lot of them will have the chips again for another year or two. Do you expect LSU to be much more active in the transfer portal while still hauling in a really good high school class, Mike D?
Yeah, this may be his best high school recruiting class he's ever had. If he can keep some of the out-of-state guys, and Bryce Underwood being one of them, who's the quarterback, number one rated player in the nation from Michigan. If he keeps that intact, yes. And then I would think he would be active in the transfer portal. At defensive tackle, I think is a huge area of need, along with cornerback. Those two areas, I think, are glaring weaknesses on this football team. And so, man, if they can land this class and get some guys that have a little experience in the secondary and a defensive tackle, that would go a long way. But remember, as you add that, you're probably going to lose your two starting offensive tackles in Will Campbell and Emory Jones. Those two guys have started since they were freshmen at LSU. That's something too. Bo, I see it across college football, but I didn't think I'd live long enough for that one. That teams are starting true freshmen at left and right tackle. That's normally a spot where, you got a veteran guy there. How will that be handled for them? And see what happens with Garrett Nussmeier. What his decision's going to be. Does he come back for another year at LSU? That's going to be a key also. If he decides to return to LSU for another year, or does he turn pro? Based on the last few weeks, I saw some people had him like the number one rated quarterback in the country. He's not that good at this stage. I think that got brought that down to earth, so to speak. Okay. So he's got some pieces. And I thought last year's recruiting class was very good. This year's recruiting class could really top the charts. But, Bo, I think it's obvious he's got some weaknesses, and he has whiffed on transfer portal people along the defensive line and in the secondary. He's whiffed on those guys the last 2 years.
Okay. Mike Detillier.
So now, my thing is, how did we miss? Let's get back down to the problem. How did we miss on those guys? So Brian's got to do some, I think, soul searching on how he's getting his information. Come on, Kelly's not out there recruiting these guys or evaluation. It comes down to him because he's the final say. Well,
it'll be interesting to see what Austin Thomas does. He left Kiffin's staff last January, and Kiffin and them had him as their whiz kid as far as the portal.
He was here before.
He was, and he did a hell of a job the last couple of years at Ole Miss. And he left around February 1, as you know, Mike. So he's been on the ground for 10 months in Baton Rouge, and I think he will have he'll be 1A when it comes to the say and presenting players to Brian Kelly, and we'll see what y'all don't have to do a lot. I mean, you don't have to do what some of these other teams do, getting 20, 25 portal players. LSU can get 8 to 12 because of the way you recruit in high school. But as you said, Mike D, you got to nail 5 to 7 of them, and then you got a ball team, right?
Other than Jaden Daniels, give me another name from the transfer portal they hit.
Yeah. It's
think about that. And this is year 3. And none of those guys on the defensive side, the football. Now, I will say this, Braden Swinson has played pretty well this year. He was a transfer portal guy he's from Georgia, went to Oregon, and then came back. But, my thing is, when you could only name one and then a second, I think that's where you're missing this, where you could get immediate help in the transfer portal. Because grooming young players, some guys can play right away, and some guys can't. They maybe not physically or kind of mentally adept to picking up what you're trying to teach them right away. And it may take a year or two. But the transfer portal people, that's where I would have to take a very hard look if I'm Brian Kelly. And look, most likely he could run the table and get with a 9-win season. You go to a bowl game, win 10. But that's not going to satisfy LSU fans. You know that. That's not going to satisfy them.
Nope.
They'll say, wait a minute, didn't we win 10 games last year with the worst defense in college football, or one of them? And we had the Heisman Trophy winner and 2 other first-round pick guys. So, man, you kind of caught here where if you run the table and win 9 games and then you win a bowl game, for a lot of teams, they would consider that a success. That's not how you're going to measure it here.
Mm-mm.
fair or unfair, it's the way it is.
Mike Detillier talking SEC football on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Hey, Mike D, how do you feel about Alabama now that you got to see them? I mean, do you feel like they've turned the corner? Where do you think they are right now after this dominating performance over LSU?
I always thought that they were one of the top teams in college football, but I knew they were flawed in a couple areas. And they're the hardest teams to gauge, okay? Because we saw how good they were in the first half against Georgia and then almost lost the game. We saw what happened in the meltdown in the fourth quarter against Vanderbilt. And yet you watch what they did to LSU. So you become Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde in a lot of cases. But they are talented. And, Jalen, I know for LSU fans, they're glad he's not playing no more games against them. Man, he was a one-man show. But, I think the key for them, Bo, is getting better defensively in the secondary, where they have some talent. I think they were very young in the secondary. Now the young guys have a little bit of experience. And I think that's a key for them. And can they run the football consistently well? I think that's the thing that if I was an Alabama guy, I would want to see more, because you know what you're going to get with Jalen. He's going to be a little bit of the rocky road as a passer. But he scares the bejesus out of you every time he gets back there. That, man, he can make a throw that'll change a game or take off running. So I think the key for them is the ability to run the football and get better in the secondary. I think their front seven has always been pretty good. But their secondary, because you lost Terrion Arnold to the NFL, he's a first-round pick. Kool-Aid McKinstry was a second-round pick with the Saints. You lost Trey Amos, who's now at Ole Miss. You had a transfer portal guy who was a freshman All-American go to Ohio State. And that you can say next man up. That don't work. There is no next man. That next guy might have talent, but he doesn't have experience. They don't have the depth. And so hopefully for them that can come around as the season gets farther down. But I think running the football and playing better in coverage is going to be the key for them. And I think they could be a team that gets hot in December, and you don't want to play them because of that guy under center. You can say we practice that. No, you can't practice his speed. There's no way you can practice that. You don't, unless you got people from the track team coming out there and playing quarterback for you. He's a unique talent. And I said this before the season and doing shows. I do weekly shows in Alabama. He's the closest quarterback athletically to Jaden Daniels in college football this year. He's the closest. I think Jaden can certainly throw the ball, and he's more accurate than what Milroe is. I'm not sure Milroe's not faster.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Mike. What if you drop Diego Pavia on a team with Bama type talent or LSU type talent?
He'd be a difference maker. Now he's a different style quarterback.
Sure.
He's more Nussmeier than he is Milroe, as far as that is concerned. He's much more like Garrett than he is Jalen. And so I respect what he's done. And you got to say, hey, that guy is one tough cookie. He's smart. He's accurate. He's a winner. And, hasn't he been part of putting Vanderbilt football on the football map? Come on, we never thought this stage of college football we'd be talking about Vanderbilt.
No.
No one would have thought that. Even the most ardent Vanderbilt fan could not have dreamed how this season has transpired. And you know what? I'll say the same thing about South Carolina. Was anybody really talking about South Carolina before the season? No, they weren't. They weren't coming out of your mouth as a team that, hey, I really don't like to play them. Now, again, there were some flaws in them because of their passing game. It's not quite there. But, man, can they run the ball and can they get after the quarterback? It's almost like you hear the gun go off, track sprinters. And you see those guys coming off the edge, and you can almost hear the tackles holler, "Watch out! They coming!" And it's fast. And they got good special teams, certainly with Shade Beamer being the coach. Look at Vanderbilt. Look at South Carolina. The two biggest surprises in the SEC. Do you want to play South Carolina right now? If you're another SEC team,
no.
They pretty doggone good. And I don't think anybody would have thought that before the season started.
No. And they got better the last month with some things happening, as you know. All right, Mike D.
They can run the ball, and they got
stop the run.
And they have gotten much better stopping the run. I knew they could get after the quarterback. But, they got a freshman defensive end. This guy looks like he could go to the NFL today, the way he comes off the edge. And then you get a transfer portal young man from Georgia Tech who's really good, too. And, man, they come after you. And nothing wins games more in the fourth quarter than a pass rush. Nothing wins it more than that. When you can put pressure like they can.
Ask Georgia this weekend.
Man, they doggone good. And really, they spit the bit against LSU. They had them. They really had them.
Mm-hmm.
They had a big lead, kind of lost it. Nussmeier got hot, and, their secondary kind of got it. Now, they got a pass rush on LSU. They put a lot of pressure on him. But a interception and then a personal foul of roughing the quarterback changed that game. They really had LSU beat late. Nussmeier throws a pick, but, man, the defensive end just crashed on him. And you got
D.
the roughing the passer.
Hey, buddy, have a great week. Thank you, man.
Thank you, bud.
Mike Detillier, WWL Radio New Orleans, brought to you by Subway at Grants Ferry. Good morning. Welcome in on a chilly Tuesday.
WRKS Pickens Jackson.
You ready?
Let's go! 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now live in the Bank Plus studio, where college football meets the all lifestyle.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is
The Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds, streaming around the world live at the Out of Bounds radio app and on your radio at ESPN 105.9.
Where are you?
The
Good morning. Welcome in. What's happening? Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone ESPN. Brought to you by Jackson's favorite Gyros at Aplos in Highland Village and Aplos in the Renaissance.
Oh,
Yeah.
still waiting on that year rotation.
Parmesan fries, gyro, cold Stella Artois.
Oh, I've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've made it through all the Euros.
Did you?
I think so.
Nice.
Yeah, I did.
You said you wanted to do that a few weeks ago, but I wasn't sure if you were actually going to.
Follow through?
Yeah.
I have most things I don't.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, but
You said it, not me.
but a year rotation. That's
Oh, yeah.
That's got me all over it. I'm following through.
E-rotation. I remember that now. We had Alex in,
You did,
and you threw that out.
you liked it.
Yeah, he did.
That's a good guy right there.
Yeah, he is. E-rotation. Okay.
He's such a solid dude. He's funny.
Yeah, that dude's a trip. So you've been through them all.
Been through them all.
Okay.
Grilled chicken. Slam dunk. And I do like the shrimp. The shrimp's good because it's that.
What is there, a smarma, or how do you say it?
Shawarma.
Swarma.
Chicken shawarma.
Yeah.
They have that, but the shawarma plate is actually the move. I got that last
I
time.
remember
I told
y'all
you.
talking about that.
Told you that it was just. It was next level,
Yeah.
and I love. I mean, look,
Rice and veggies and chicken and all kinds of
and I
things.
don't think he'd be mad at me for doing this. Aladdin has always had great chicken shawarma,
Okay.
but theirs, it just took it up a notch. I don't know what they do different.
Ooh.
And I love both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I love them. Apple's has obviously become the go-to, but whatever they're doing and the way they season it, oh god, yeah, I could probably eat there every day.
At Aplos?
Yeah.
Well, that's because the menus you can
Yeah,
go
that's a good point.
a few different directions.
That's true. Pizza.
Yeah.
I can go salad if I need to go with
Right.
salad on the rare occasion.
Wings,
Yeah. And then if I need to go.
hummus trio,
Okay.
avocado dip,
Yeah.
Lebanese rolls. All right. So I
Ooh.
didn't know we were going to go. I had
That sounds so good, though.
what Brando says he's trying to call in. Have you looked at the phone?
Nah, and not since like July.
Okay. Well, let me give you the Stella Artois caller line, 601-707-3750. Let's see if he's calling. I'll text him.
It was calling 601-995.
Yep.
I
I bet that's what he was.
I know it was because I have been looking at it.
Yeah, 601-707-3750. You probably hadn't been looking. I don't blame you.
July-ish.
When you call a guest, you look at it. Other than that, you don't pay attention to it.
Nah, I just got too much going on.
I don't blame you. You got your rotation.
Oh, I mean, going into deep thought about that spins me off for a loop.
Yeah.
Because I get lost in the sauce.
Did you
That's what it is.
Did you watch any Monday Night Football?
I was too busy pulling dubs.
Oh, you were at kickball.
Kickball.
Okay.
Now,
Okay. I
can't believe he's alive and playing ball.
Tua?
Yeah.
Man, he is.
And he's playing good ball. Again.
Uh-oh, we got a call on the Stella Artois caller line. Here we go. I think his name's Brando, according to the Mac Hike Auto Group text line. Let's see what we got here. Went to the coast, stayed at the White House. Oh, he texted us last week on our have you been to the coast in the last 12 months deal. So we got Brando?
Well, yeah, I mean, good news is he wasn't calling this one. I don't know if that's good news or bad news, but the good news is it wasn't on me. So,
Which is amazing.
I know. We're just going to make sure we have that written down. Brando.
All right, Brando, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, I bet if it was one of his kickball teammates, he'd be answering the phone. That's on me. I was calling the 995-105 number. My bad, guys.
That's all right, man.
Hey, real quick. So the Indiana coach, I've been really picking up on him since the Google Me. But I don't know if you heard him this weekend. They were doing those BS interviews after when the coach is walking off or whatever. And she was talking to him, and then he looked, knowing he knew, he looked at her at the end of the interview and said, "What is our record again?"
Oh.
He said 10-0. He acted like he didn't know what their record was.
So Brando, who's your team?
Man, I love him. Oh, Ole Miss.
Well, you're riding high.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to be high to watch the games, basically. So, a little Woodford Blanton's and a little Kush Green and Ole Miss looks great every week.
Well, all right. So let me ask you this:
Kentucky.
Now that Kentucky was a while back, that hurt, but now you just beat Georgia. Are y'all? I mean, how do you feel about it? Do you feel like you could go all the way, or how do you feel about this?
Here's the deal: there's going to be a lot of 2-loss teams that I think are up for grabs for the playoffs. I think we may be one of them. I could see us going and crapping the bed in Florida, or even at the Egg Bowl. You throw that out, I could see that just because they've disappointed me all these years. But what I would love to see is us win out and not have to go to the SEC championship,
right?
And not have to suffer maybe another loss. But there's gonna be a lot of two-loss teams in that deal, man. I hope the Rebels are there and I wish nothing but good luck, and I think Levy's going to be a good coach with State.
Hey, do you play golf?
Man, I did until I had back surgery 2 years ago. Yep.
Oh, good Lord!
From playing golf.
Man,
that's
all
what
right.
A bad swing will do for you.
All right, what if I hook you up with a room at the Golden Moon?
I would love it. Hell yeah, man! Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so you just got a room at the Golden Moon Casino.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hotel.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right.
Thank you, man.
We'll get in touch with. Well, I got your number right here. All right.
Yeah.
Be good, buddy.
I don't have yours obviously now, but I do. But just text me, man. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks for the call, Brenda. Ole Miss fan. He's excited. As he should be.
Yeah, I'm glad I looked.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
What's my record?
What's my record? That guy he gives no F's. Again, overlooked his whole life. Took him to 63 years old to get a head coaching job at Power 4. He doesn't give a damn about what you think. He doesn't care about the college football hierarchy. He doesn't give a damn about what Kirk Herbstreit thinks or some kind of AP voter or Heisman voter. He's just the guy.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Bruh.
I think that's Brando.
Bruh.
That's what he was doing after the Ole Miss Georgia game.
Bruh.
I mean, do you know him?
No. But
Okay, I
like him.
thought you knew him.
No, but I like him.
Yeah. Wow.
Sounds like a smart cat.
No doubt.
I'm good, Bo Bow.
He's excited though for his Ole Miss football team.
Well, I'm just glad he was determined enough to call the right number.
I know.
Because I mean, you had to want it.
Big time.
So he was rewarded.
I
That's what he
texted him
gets.
back
Okay, good.
to make sure he got it. Because just because you're saying it on the air, people are driving, they can't. It's not always that way. And that was one of the best calls we've had this football season. He just won a night at the Golden Moon.
Just like that.
So
Mic drop.
he's going to be going up there and having a good time. And what did he say he was going to, what kind of beverage did he say? He listed one of our sponsors, one of our partners. Oh, well, we'll say how about Wild Turkey Rare Breed? Ooh, is that good bourbon or what? Wild Turkey Rare Breed around the fire pit and some football when you have some ribs on the grill. Talking about big time premium bourbon, Wild Turkey Rare Breed, and the fire pit and the grill and some ribs and football on. That's brought to you by Wild Turkey Rare Breed. That is funny.
Say, I work for the Navy. Anytime I get around boats, I get overzealous.
Man, oh man, oh man. Ole Miss going to the college football playoff. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. It was doom and gloom after the Kentucky and LSU losses. Now, back riding high. Florida, Mississippi State, two teams that have struggled. Mississippi State's the worst team in the league. They really told Vanderbilt, hold my beer. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We're brought to you by the Men's Clinic in Madison and Brandon. If you've too much fatigue, low energy, low testosterone, low sex drive, go to the Men's Clinic in Madison or Brandon. Dr. Mike Manning, Dr. Cliff Adams want to help you through the aging process. TheManThing.com. This is 105.9 The Zone ESPN. Steve Robertson's going to join us next. We are going to talk. We've obviously been heavy Ole Miss football for months, and we should be. But we got to hit some Hail State football and if and when they're going to climb out of this thing. And they're going to have to make a change at defensive coordinator, and they're going to have to go portal heavy. Now everybody can kick in their own money. I can't imagine what the portal's going. You only had a few teams and a few alumni bases that were willing to commit to it and embrace it. Now everybody's going to throw their TV money in it and fund their NIL. So how's that going to look?
Don't have a choice, though, right?
No, you don't. I mean, you're still going to have to build through high school,
right?
A big chunk of it, but the portal is going to be here forever. We're not going back.
Okay, we're not, right?
No.
Is there a chance we go back on any of the things that we've done?
No, because of lawsuits.
It's done, right?
Oh yeah.
What's done is done.
Yeah, players will be at the collegiate level. Players will be paid forever.
That's that.
As long as we have college athletics, which I don't see why we wouldn't unless we had nuclear holocaust.
Do you think they ever clamp any of the?
No, I think it could be structured many different ways.
Sure,
yes.
Okay.
I think that you could see some
Wild
caps and
right.
bookends and a model that is much more streamlined
on paper.
Then I think you'll get that in the next couple of years.
Because we'll never get away from all of it, right?
No,
it's impossible.
No,
that's not a shot at anything they're doing. That's just that's a people thing.
Yeah,
there's always going to be a way to skirt a line, and people are going to find a way to do it.
Yeah, you'll still have under the table money forever.
Right. Even right now,
you do.
There's
absolutely, especially in men's football and men's hoops. What would be the third sport? Women's hoops or
not baseball?
I mean, baseball is interesting. It's not squeaky clean by any stretch.
Who's getting money though? Who's getting paid?
I mean, Mississippi State brought back Dakota Jordan through NIL for 6 figures. It worked out. His slug. I mean, people get bogged down in his strikeouts, but he also changed the game with one swing many a times throughout the season. So to me, wasn't just worth it. It was 5X worth it.
Right.
It's a good question, Jackson.
I mean, is there anyone that's just
I guess
getting it like that?
I guess there's some under the table money in baseball, but I don't think there's that much.
What is the third sport?
I think women's hoops.
Yeah.
Now that you make me
on the spot.
Football, well, basketball may lead the way per kid. Football has more kids.
Right.
So, but it's a co-op system. You play them legally through NIL, but you also need cash.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll go away. It may be a different scale,
right?
Because now it's legal to pay. You're still going to have to pay the handlers and the agents, and
they want their cut.
Family. Well, yeah.
They're
now,
not going
baseball.
anywhere.
I will tell you that there are handlers and agents, and they're getting you've got these swing coaches now,
Oh no!
and
How many different coaches are there now?
that's I don't. I think swing coach is the big coach in baseball, and I guess pitching coach.
Oh no! I mean, yeah, because I guess swing would be
Nah,
batting
I
coach.
don't hear as much of that. Swing coaches seem to be the thing where they can have 6 to 8 players, and they can be at different programs, and they can make some money.
Okay. Is that the same thing as a batting coach?
That's what I meant.
Okay, all right.
Batting coach.
Okay, yeah. That.
Sorry, that sounded like golf. My bad.
No, I mean, you never know. I mean, they need both.
Yeah.
A swing coach needs to be a batting coach.
Yeah, batting coach, hitting coach.
Hitting coach, even better.
Yeah,
They're the ones that
I mean,
make the hay.
if you can get some big prospects, SEC guys, Big 12, hell, now Big 10, because Southern Cal, UCLA,
Right.
and Oregon, and Washington's been to the regionals a bunch. The Big 10's got a little more juice in baseball now, whereas they did not.
Big Ten's got juice.
Well, I'm talking about in the baseball. Well,
Sure.
They may have juice in football. We're going to have to see
Right.
what Ohio State and Oregon. Indiana, and it's a great story. They're a good team. They're not going to be able to go against the big boys once we get into.
Right.
And that is not a shot at Kurt Signetti
Just
at
is what
all.
It is.
And maybe I'm wrong. And if he wants to go in the playoff and win a game, then prove me wrong. Love it. We could have some SEC matchups. We could have Ole Miss, Bama first round.
Absolutely.
We could have Ole Miss, Tennessee first round in either Knoxville or Oxford. Ole Miss, Bama in either Tuscaloosa or Oxford.
Not far fetched.
A&M,
We're going to, right?
A&M,
We
Ole
have
Miss.
to. Numerically, you have to have at least one or two.
Well, I don't. So
they're gonna get 5,
you look at
4
the
in.
buys. It depends on what Texas and Ohio State and Oregon and a couple other teams do as far as either undefeated or one loss. And so if that takes care of itself,
Okay, they could. Yeah, they could
then
skate.
you got 5 versus 12, 6 versus 11. You get the whole deal.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, you're right.
So you could have Bama versus Ole Miss
in Tuscaloosa
or Oxford,
or Oxford.
Tennessee against Ole Miss, A&M against Ole Miss, Notre Dame against Ole Miss.
If you are,
Then now you'd rather pull like the G5 team,
right,
or BYU.
oh, yeah, right.
You don't believe in BYU?
No, I'm saying there's no way they get lucky enough to pull them.
I don't know, man. We'll see. A 6-11 matchup? What? The 4 get the buys. So I'm going
Yeah, I forgot about
5
Miles.
against 12,
You're right.
6 against 11,
That's a good-
7 against 10, 8 versus 9.
Wow.
I mean, 8 who knows? 7 versus 10 could be Ole Miss, Bama.
If you're Ole Miss, who do you want to host? Like,
BYU,
yeah, it's BYU.
Notre Dame. Yeah.
I'd still take BYU or Notre Dame.
Or the other big, if there's one more Big 12 team, Colorado,
Right.
Shador versus
Golly, are they going to play
Jackson
their
Dart
way?
in Oxford.
They're going to play their way into this, and Deion's going to come to Mississippi and get wrecked.
By 17? Yeah. Steve Robertson coming up next on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, brought to you by Two Brothers Bar and Grill and Older Brother, their new high-end bistro in the Cotton District. Man, Steve Robertson likes some street tacos and wings from Two Brothers in the historic Cotton District, or maybe a shrimp po' boy or a muffaletta from their brand new sister restaurant, Older Brother Bistro, right across the alleyway in the Cotton District, too. You're listening Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We welcome in Steve Robertson, genespage.com, 247 Sports. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. How does it feel to have two books in the top 10 bestsellers in the state of Mississippi?
Well, that's really cool. You know, it's actually happened a couple times, but I was a little surprised to see Flim Flam, 7 years after its release, creep back in there. But, it is coming up on Christmas, and, everybody's got an Ole Miss brother-in-law that they'd like to give a gag gift to. So we don't question people's motivation. We're just grateful for the sale, But, it's pretty cool. And, some stiff competition out there. Maybe we make a chance to run at number one later in the year. But it's always nice to be recognized. And, it's like you never take that stuff for granted. I mean, no matter how hard you work on stuff, you have to have people that respond to the work that you put in. And I think The Dude is the best book I've ever written. And so not surprised, but also very, very grateful to the book readers of Mississippi and certainly our independent bookstores. And if I can talk about that just a second, guys, we are so blessed in this state to have so many incredible independent bookstores. And, so rather than run to Amazon, I know it's so easy, I get guilty of that too. We don't even sell my books on Amazon anymore because we want to protect our vendors in Starkville and around the great state of Mississippi. But we are so blessed to have Lemuria Books and Square Books and, Bay Books down on the coast and Book Martin Cafe. And so when you need books, even if you got to order online, order from an independent Mississippi bookstore. I think that is a wonderful thing to kind of keep our literary heritage alive.
Steve Robertson, give me a 30 seconds on your new book because I want you to do that, but then I got some things that we got to hit.
Well, I think obviously I think it's the best thing I've ever written, and I think a lot of it. Many of these stories are over 100 years old, and
Duty Noble.
Oh yeah, and it's not just about duty. It's about kind of life and times. Like there's some talk about World War I and then the World War II situation when State and Ole Miss both were precluded from resuming football for a stretch there. Even though most of the Southeastern Conference was resuming after World War II. And I think State and Ole Miss were one of 4 schools that weren't expected to field the team. But in the end, State and Ole Miss folks got together in the legislature and got it approved that we could resume football with the rest of the conference. That's something I didn't know, and there's a lot of things I didn't know. That's the best thing about doing this sort of stuff is, in educating yourself, on the history and, of athletics in the state of Mississippi. And some cool things in there, too. Also, with segregation and things like that and how Duty Noble and Tad Smith both had to deal with some of those things with the state legislature. And we've actually got a copy of a bill that died in committee, but a story about that, about how it would have been illegal, for state-funded institutions to play against integrated rosters. And you can see the bill for itself in the book.
Oh, wow. All right, so Steve's new book is out for the holidays, and he's bouncing around the state of Mississippi book signings. And so when's your next book signing?
Friday, and I have to live week to week these days. I don't have anything this week. It's an open date, probably at Maroon and Company. It's Friday afternoon.
Okay.
And the next week will be busy again. So.
Okay. Mississippi State is in football the lowest they've been in 20 plus years. And it's only a few of the posts that really get me, on Gene's page, but Colonel Kang is your best poster, Steve. And he's kind of laying it out and letting everybody know. And I'm not saying, well, none of us are right 100% of the time. And I'm not saying that I catch every one of his posts, but 90+% of the time, he is swimming in the right end of the pool, and he's letting people know that to win, they got to get their act together in several different, ways. And this thing has been a disaster. Moorhead was a terrible hire. Leach could beat you. He was brilliant, could beat you on game day. But, bad staff, bad recruiting, and then, of course, passes away. Rent a coach with Arnett, and now the most inexperienced staff in the SEC. What do you make of Colonel Kang's post on genespage.com?
Well, number one, he's my friend, and I do know him, and he will be overjoyed to know that he is being featured on statewide radio today. But he's probably the most knowledgeable baseball poster I have, and at times he gets a little bit emotional about football, and it's because it comes from a good place, and he's not alone in this. And that's one thing that I talk about on my own show. Apathy is the enemy of athletics, right? And so when people get out here and react to what some people consider negative, it's actually a positive thing, because when you have dialogue, you have passion, right? When people care, they're going to respond because they want your athletic programs, your university to advance, right? And so that's an important aspect. It comes from a good place, whether you agree with it or not. And I believe that dialogue on message boards and social media is invaluable to all of us, not just the university itself, but to the fan base. There are a lot of people out there that don't really know the lay of the land. They just know, hey, the ball game's this weekend, I'll be there,
Right.
And you need some fans like that, right? But I had to sit down with Zach Selman recently, and he kept mentioning the House settlement. Now, we have talked about that extensively on the message boards and in articles, but for some reason, when Zach says it has, maybe a cord of truth to it. And you're like, well, wait a minute, what is this all about? I didn't realize, we're going to be spending, $25 to $30 million a year to pay student athletes. And so, it's not business as usual for anybody, because you got NIL concerns, you got the facility concerns, and I think in many respects the facility arm race is going to slow down a lot. But yeah, I think basically what you get, I must call his real name, I don't want to do that, but I think when you get Kang out there posting these things, it can be, even if you don't agree with it, it can be very constructive because he wants more, right? And it's not, there are a lot of people out there, Bo, as you know, that are consumers, right? And they're thinking, hey, Mississippi State needs to do more. Well, we are Mississippi State. It's not as simple as, okay, well, Zach Selman just needs to write another check. Well, that check's got to be cashed at the bank. And so everybody's got to do a little bit more. And that's not, hey, maybe you can't afford to give, and maybe you can and don't, and you should. But
there's a lot of that.
Well, everybody can buy apparel. Everybody can buy tickets. And everybody can come to games and get concessions and support Mississippi State. I had somebody recently talked about, Arkansas, how their fans are, win, lose, or draw. You look at, the early years of Holtz at South Carolina, how they still sold out Williams-Brice Stadium. You look at LSU. I mean, well, the times have changed. And so everybody's got to be, a stockholder in Mississippi State athletics if you really want state to truly advance. And we got some things to feel good about. But the football program is not where anybody hoped or expected it to be at this point. And I think in many respects you are in crisis mode in some respects. But I do think there is a plan in place, especially for the upcoming portal season, to secure some things. But, listen, this is the new age of college athletics. And anybody that thinks, well, it'll get back to how it was, I miss the good old days. The good old days are gone and dead forever.
Done. Yeah, no, I love that he calls out people and is constantly putting pressure, and he's spot on in what he's saying. I do think it's funny that it's still making people mad. But anyway, Steve Robertson on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line, genespage.com. They've got to make a move at the defensive coordinator position, in my opinion. How do you see it?
Well, it's so interesting. You work through that. Like I was going through the game, the Tennessee game. When you're there, sometimes it's like when you're in the moment, you're just thinking about the next play, right? I mean, so you don't get the 35,000-foot view, And so I get back yesterday and I'm working through the replay of the game, and the defense didn't cost Mississippi State that game in Knoxville. The offense did. And you look up and you're like, hey, the State forces a fumble in the red zone, and then State gets a goal line stand, and turns them back, and then you get a 3-and-out. And, it's like there were enough stops made in that ball game that State had an opportunity to win. And so, I don't make these decisions, but I tell you that Arkansas game was a complete debacle. And that's why I could never be a head coach, Bo, because, if you were my defensive coordinator – and we go out there and we have a game against Arkansas that we think is winnable because, hey, the top offensive player is out, right? And you got to go stop a freshman running back. And we get beat the way we did, I'd have fired you. I mean, we wouldn't have made it to the locker room. I'd, Bo, you're done, because I could never be – I'm too emotional for that. But then I got to be honest with myself too. If I'm the offensive guy and I go back and look, what do we have, 87 yards passing, something like that against Tennessee? I mean, it's like – the defense showed up to play, and people look up and say, well, you give up 33 points, you got to do a better job. And, maybe that's true, but the reality of it is I didn't think the defense let State down on Saturday. I thought it was more on the offensive side of the football. So to just suggest that it's, hey, you just go hire a new defensive coordinator, it's going to fix everything, that's just not true. State's got to be better in every facet of football.
Yeah, but they got to upgrade there. I mean, this is not they did this the last 2 years in a row. So I'll go with Colonel King. This is unacceptable. They on campus, the administration and others can decide if they want to be an SEC football program or a Sun Belt program. You've gone Matt Brock and now Coleman Hutzler. Now, let me give you some other guys who were calling plays around the league. Clayton White at South Carolina, defensive coordinator. Brad White, Kentucky, big-time defensive coordinator. Pete Golding, big-time defensive coordinator. Elko, big-time defensive coordinator. Durkin, big-time defensive coordinator. Kirby Smart, big-time defensive coordinator. I may have missed one. And so they just can't do this. I mean, I get that they played – that Tennessee wasn't interested. Nico got knocked out. They did play hard, and some good things happened. They got to go out and get a big boy defensive coordinator, and they got to surround Levy with some veterans coaches who have been in the big boy fire. Because last year they had money. You know this, Steve. They had well over $6 million to spend, and the defensive side of the staff, they didn't even miss out on people in the portal, much less get people in the portal. I mean, I think that's something that should be talked about on your board. They didn't even miss. You can't name guys that they missed. They just weren't. They didn't have a beat on anybody. They had 100,000 here, 300,000 here, 400,000 here to pay players. They couldn't even get in on anybody because I guess they weren't ready to roll. If Levy's going to make it, they got to go get a guy from G5 or Power 5 who's a veteran who's been calling plays for several years. The Matt Brocks and Coleman Hutzlers, I mean, that's Texas State type stuff, in my opinion, Steve.
Well, and that's fair, but they did miss on several defensive players last year, and like Nick Scorton's a great example. This is a guy. You go get Pac out of Purdue, and you're thinking, okay, maybe that gives you some insight with Nick, but they were never really in a ball game there. I mean, there were some big misses, especially on the edge, and those chickens have kind of come home to roost. I mean, that's the reality of it. But the bottom line is this: is you go back and you look at every first year coach, right? You go back to Dan Mullen, right? I mean, so Dan comes in. And a lot of people don't know this, but the administration had to help him put a staff together.
Sure.
Because he's leaving Florida, right? So he's the coordinator, so he doesn't have a ready-made staff to come with him. He knew he was going to bring Hevesy and a couple others, but so you go out and you hire Les Kenning, of course, a guy that Mississippi State people knew well. I mean, you bring Mark Hudspeth in, you go help to get Carl Torbush, and so you have this kind of thrown together staff in year one. And I don't think that really was the case with Leb because everybody that he hired, he had a relationship with. I mean, Dan, the first time you met some of these guys was in the interview.
Right.
And so anytime.
Which tells you all you need to know. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But you look at it, what did he do? In year two, he went out and got some more of his own guys, kind of got things going. But, here's the thing, as you mentioned, this is big boy football. This isn't getting the band back together and playing a few dates on fraternity row, right? I mean, this is big time football. And, Jeff Levy's going to have some difficult decisions to make in the offseason. And he needs to make those for the betterment of Mississippi State and his own career. And you and I both know in business, you can't do business with your friends sometimes, right? I mean, it's as simple as that. You got to be able to go there. You got people that you got to hold accountable, and you got to have a couple guys on staff that are obviously your ride or die guys. But you got to get some guys out here, obviously, that can do the job. And Bo, we've all been in this position before. when you realize that your job is not completely secure, you got one or two options, right? Some people just quit, just mail it in, and just go ahead. Just go ahead and call the moving company and update my resume and reach out to my agent. There are other people that fight. Other people are like, no, I'm not leaving here. I'm not going to get fired. I'm going to leave on my own terms. I'm going to turn this thing around and I'm going to get promoted and be somewhere else. But I'm not going to get fired. And so I'm from that line of thinking, as you are as well. I know there are some people, as soon as you give them feedback, they update the resume. But I think what Mississippi State is, you got to go ahead and be very, very almost cruel in some respects. You have got to think about
ruthless.
Absolutely.
This is a ruthless league. It's a passive fan base. They're going to have to here's what I've always said, whether I've been speaking to groups like you. Mississippi State likes the idea of winning in football. They don't want to win. They're going to have to decide from campus to alums if they want to win. Let's go to recruiting. Steve Robertson, genespage.com, 247 Sports. How concerned should Mississippi State fans be with Kamario Taylor, the big-time QB that's committed to Mississippi State, receiving an offer from Georgia, I think, on Sunday night, Steve?
Well, I think it validates Mississippi State's evaluation, but I'm not overly concerned about him flipping to Georgia. We've actually had some conversations, with him and some people connected to him in the last 24 hours, and hope to have an update for you today. But, yeah, I'm not overly concerned about that. The Caleb Cunningham situation is much different, though. I do think that he is going to leave Alabama. And if I had to like make a bet today, I'd bet on Ole Miss. It's not over by any stretch, and I think we're probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks away from him making a final decision. And but yeah, I mean, give Lane and those guys a lot of credit. They've stayed on him, and of course, they're putting a good product on the field. And so
absolutely,
if you're that guy thinking, hey, I want to get to the league, and I'm a wide receiver and I really want to go that far away from home, it makes reasonable sense, right? I mean, it's not some pretzel you got to bend yourself into. It makes perfect sense. And so I know State's trying to get him back on campus for a visit the Missouri weekend, so we'll see if that changes anything. But I would say right now, Ole Miss certainly has some momentum in the Caleb Cunningham sweepstakes.
So you expect him to flip out of his commitment to Bama and go to Ole Miss because of the unbelievable year they're having and so on?
If I had to pick it right now, I would. I think that commitment to Alabama is in trouble. I really do. And I know that he has been, on social media, hey, it's still a Roll Tide, whatever. I think Alabama is not going to have the class on signing day that some people expect them to have. Does that make sense? Like I just kind of hear some things in the wind about some kids out there that are committed to Alabama, or maybe some targets that Alabama's expecting that I think are going to end up elsewhere. And I think the same can be said for Auburn too. I mean, they lose Dante Core a couple of days ago. And I remember watching that kid in camp 2 years ago, and I'm watching this kid run around and cover and bat stuff down in the air, and I'm like, who are you? And he's like Dante Core, and I think at the time he had like Troy. That's it. But the kid was remarkable, and I was like, this is an SEC guy right here. And then, of course, State offers him, and some other people do. But that Dante Core kid is legit. And so I think, there's going to be some drama between now and signing day. It's because of the fact I think there's some players out there around this conference that are going to get some late overtures from some programs. And maybe that's NIL related. I mean, we're not Pollyannas around here, Bo. But I think you're going to see some musical chairs in the final days of the process.
How many portal guys you think Mississippi State takes or tries to get? 25?
What we get, 15 last year?
20?
A lot of it's going to depend on who all leaves. And not all that'll be Mississippi State's decision. I mean, and that's the case for everybody, right? I mean, it's just like, you look at what Heupel's done. All those guys, as soon as they announced the NCAA investigation, I mean, half the team got in the portal, and then you look at what he's built. But you'll process some guys out that maybe have come in that can't really play and are never going to contribute. And that's really the merciful thing, right? I mean, if we're never going to play here, it's just ridiculous to expect them to stay. You'd like to see it somewhere else.
You got to cut the cord. Yeah.
Well, yeah, not to mention, too, it's a roster spot you need for somebody that can contribute. It's better for all parties when you do that. But there are going to be some guys that say, you know what, I just, listen, I've worked hard, and, maybe I hadn't got on the field here, and I'm going to go somewhere else. But, State has really got to do a good job on the offensive line and defensive line in the portal. I mean, we knew, and we talked about it all summer. The defensive line was going to be a real challenge. And then, lo and behold, at some points this year, you've been down 5 defensive linemen due to injury, and so you've got to go out there and find some war daddies, not just some warm bodies. You got to go find some difference makers. And again, we talked about that earlier in the show. I mean, there was some misses in the portal last year, and you weren't able to recover from that in the spring. And so you're stuck kind of playing with what you have. And now you see there's a reason you identified people in the portal in the first place was to upgrade your talent. Then you weren't able to do it. Now you got to go play with those guys.
Woo. All right. That's it's a big task, big haul in Starkville. And I think it starts with a new defensive coordinator and some other pieces. Steve Robertson, genespage.com. Tell Colonel Kang I said hello.
We'll do it, buddy. We'll see you.
All right, man. That hit was brought to you by two brothers and their brand new sister restaurant, Older Brother Bistro. They've got fried crab claws, an amazing muffaletta Reuben sandwich, and shrimp po' boy, all at Older Brother Bistro in Starkville. Basketball today? Josh Hubbard, Cam Matthews, is that right? Playing Southeast Louisiana? That'll be a good one. We are the Out of Bounds Show. We're brought to you by BetMGM. It's the king of sports books, and Beau Ravage's BetMGM Book Bar and Grill is the South's premier Vegas-style sports book. Visit a live betting window, self-service kiosk. Use the BetMGM app to place your bets on your favorite games and sporting events. The app offers free-to-play promotions, live betting options, boosted odds specials at your fingertips. Experience the action at BetMGM Book Bar and Grill, only at the Beau Rivage on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. See you tomorrow.